Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gameweek 16 pod of the FPL Wire, powered by DreamSetGo. I'm your host, Zophar, and I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Late Riser. How are you doing, buddy?
75% fitness, Zoph, yellow flag, but going to be playing this week because that's what you got to do in the December fixture crunch, isn't it?
Got to man up. Got to man up and take the punches.
How are you doing? How's the last game week been for you? Tough one for both of us.
The last two game weeks have been bad. I think last time when we came on, I was at like 16.5k. Now I'm at just outside 50k. So the red arrows have been big. But the points, I think they're pretty close. The points are bunched pretty close. So I think it's going to be quite easy to catch up.
So before we move on, it's a little laggy. I think it's fine now.
Yeah, that's a problem with Zoom. I really don't know what to do about it. I can stop the recording maybe and do the native thing, what we usually do.
Right. We also have with us a certain Baker who I'm excited to chat with. How are you going? How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I've been the same with a bit of a yellow flag with the super cold and a bit of coughing. Just about gone, but I'll mute myself. It's coming back. But yeah, similar week, and in general, not a bit of a red flag this week, and been some amazing scores out there, but unfortunately not mine.
Things are happening at your club, Baker. I mean, how many tested positive now? What's the latest?
Well, I think players were on 8. You know, is Conte visibly upset today? You know, it's madness. They're looking to play tomorrow night because of Europa rules. Like, it's a conference, just chuck it out. But they're still carrying it on at the moment and still planning to play Thursday, but I don't think any of us expect we're going to have a game on Sunday.
Seems very
Things
unlikely.
to talk about.
And we got some updates on some players who have trained, not trained also recently. So looks like the rumors were true. It looks like Son was one of the players possibly affected. We don't know for sure, but he wasn't in training today.
Yeah, no Son, no Bavis, no Emerson from the guys that people probably own at the moment. Kane did train, which is worth mentioning.
Kane did train, but there was somebody that trained today has now tested positive after training. So one of the 11 or so that trained today, and that's the bit where that's the bit where Conte was visibly upset today. Is they were supposed to Højbjerg was supposed to join him, and he just didn't turn. Maybe he didn't come because he's tested positive, but they stopped that, and he just said, "Not talking about football. This is the deal. We got families. Like, we're coming in every day, touching each other, contact each other, and then another man goes off every time." It's bad that those players have all trained with somebody today that's then tested positive after.
Somebody in the chat actually just said, "New guy intro, please, LR." So I'm just going to introduce Baker here, who hosts a fabulous podcast called Above Average FPL. They've got a new shiny template. He pods with his partner CY. Both of them do a lot of spaces on Twitter as well. Great content. It's my first pod of the week, my go-to pod of the week. At the start of the week, they're really, really good. And Baker's quite a good FPL manager as well. What are you ranked at right now, Baker?
All right. Yeah. I'm 14K. Or maybe 15, 16K, actually. It's bad week, but it's about 15K.
Why don't you just tell our listeners a little bit about your pod?
Yeah, so as mentioned, myself and CY, we're old friends who used to go to Tottenham a lot, so there is some bias there. He lives in Scotland, I live down in the south of England, so we just started chatting a lot more, especially first lockdown, about on Zoom, watching games together, and we were like, quite like this, and this might be an excuse for a weekly chat of a beer. And we've been very competitive in our sort of like mini leagues in FPL and been part of the FPL community. So we started a pod and it's doing really well, thanks to some lovely support from you guys and been on here. But yeah, we thoroughly enjoy it. We get it done as soon as the week's over, Sunday night. So it's out about 11 o'clock Sunday night. As I said to many people, I do the ranting and CY does all the production and gets it all out. We've got good new YouTube. Please, Above Average FPL.
Give it a look.
There you go.
Right,
Let's get into... Yep.
A quick word about our sponsors. DreamSetGo is India's first sports travel and experiences platform, offering a range of premium, end-to-end authentic experiences across football, cricket, tennis, F1, rugby, and golf, among others. From matchday hospitality to VIP stadium tours, from private meet and greets with athletes and legends to exclusive access to their training sessions, DreamSetGo curates the most fulfilling sports travel packages for fans like you.
And all the stats that you see on our podcast are from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. The membership stats are really, really useful. I highly recommend it. If you do want to become a member, click on the links in the description below. So boys, lots to go through today. I think we're going to be talking about what Ranieri's United looks like. We're going to be talking about the City mids. We're going to be talking about Mount. We're going to be talking about Bowen and Antonio. We're going to be talking about the King versus Dennis debate. And we were going to talk about what to do with Spurs assets, but I think that's going to be a really, really short section now. Right, Zoph, so what do we kick off with?
We start off with Watford.
Right, going easy with Watford. So a lot of people in the community have been asking this question in terms of what do you do? Because a lot of people are looking to spend less cash in one striker spot now that they have good fixtures. They're, I think, top of the season ticker until game week 23. So good bunch of fixtures, and there's been a big King versus Dennis debate. The reason why we find them interesting is because ever since Ranieri has taken charge of the club, which is around game week 8, Watford sit 4th on the XG table, just behind the top 3 teams, that's City, Chelsea, and Liverpool. So they look like they're good in attack. Are you worried at all about this just being like a new manager's bounce, or do you think they have it in them to sustain those attacking numbers? Baker, I'll come to you.
They look fun. And I think some of the fun is a bit reactionary with them. So what we have seen is they basically just fight fire with fire. So when they're provoked, that's when they've really had some of their big results, their big scores. So, we're not seeing them like, oh, I'm just going to control a 2-0 win or even a 3-0 wins or those type of things, because they are Watford and they are, we are talking about two players. Let's be really clear, is the other ones, like, they're bad. And so Ranieri sees that and he's here to have fun with it and says, look, this is the best way we can do this. It's the old attack is the best form of defense type thing. You're not going to keep many clean sheets with Trooster Kong and Rose and the likes of them. So they're just going to try and keep punching. And that's what they do right to the end. Number of late goals, and those boys, Dennis and King, they're just great options and they're quickly rising in price. Now's the fun part because they're about the same price. So therefore, for us sort of looking at getting on, it's a really, well, actually, where do we go from here?
Exactly. A lot of people looking to jump on them this week. I did a little bit of an article for the Scout today, and I just looked at the numbers. And ever since Ranieri has been at the helm, the underlying numbers just say one story, where King is absolutely the right pick to go for. And Dennis's numbers look really, really unsustainable. He's got a delta positive XGI of around plus 5.3, which means that he's had about 5 or 6 more returns than he should compare based on the XG model. And King is pretty much performing. He's got about 4 goals since the time Ranieri's taken over, and that's what his XGI is looking like as well. So he's pretty much on par with his XGI. And what I looked into is their historical performances compared to expected data as well. And King pretty much in the last 6 or 7 seasons is between a delta +1 and a -1. So this is pretty much his level in terms of this is where he's going to perform. When you're looking at the underlying data, which Utkarsh is showing us in the screens, whether it comes to XG, whether it comes to big chances, whether it comes to shots in the box, King absolutely demolishes Dennis at the moment. The only place in which Dennis is doing better at the moment is the shot conversion rate and the goal conversion rate, which is close to 60% at the moment for shot conversion, which are really, really high numbers. So the big question is, I tried finding historical data for Dennis because we don't have any precedents there when it comes to Dennis. How good is Dennis actually as a player? Is he Mo Salah levels good? Probably not, but is he 6 million good for a Watford striker? I mean, when I'm watching them play, he does look good. But I went through the last 4 or 5 games, and a couple of his goals did have a slightly fluke element to them. If you think about the Leicester goal that he scored, which was in conditions where even the defenders couldn't see the ball, so that's a factor which is making me lean towards King over Dennis at the moment. King took the last penalty against Leicester as well, with Ismaila Sarr not being on the pitch. So that's a factor. And the third biggest factor at the moment is AFCON, where Dennis is in the provisional 40-man squad for Nigeria. And it looks like we might have a little pre-permanent when it comes to the AFCON date. Utkarsh, what's the latest there?
Apparently, it's now been brought earlier to January 3rd from January 9th. So, and the rule, I think there's a FIFA ruling that clubs have to release their players at least 1 week before. So I think we are speculating that they're probably going to play the Boxing Day fixtures, which is game week 19. And then they'll be off after that. It's speculation at this point. We don't know what deals the clubs can work out, but that would seem the most likely outcome because you'd want the countries to have at least a week of training with their players, right?
Yep.
Got to.
What I also noticed in the highlights is that Dennis is not, King is not like a false 9. So when Watford are in possession and keeping the ball, his role is pretty much it's sort of DCL-like, where he's sticking to the 6-yard box dot and he's just hovering around that area. And whenever Watford cross from the wings, which they tend to do a lot because they've got Femenia, who's a decent wing back as well, his job is to stay in the center. And what he does a great job of on the counter is occupying those center backs. And because he's occupying those center backs, that tends to open up space for Dennis on the counter. And he likes to dribble and shoot, and he's been really good and accurate with that. So do you think this run from Dennis is sustainable, Utkarsh, Zoph?
I think first I would like to present all the data. This is from your article, and I'll just go through it quickly for a couple of minutes. So on the left, you see the heat map from King, and on the right, you see Dennis. King's getting into a lot more central areas, as the heat map shows. The underlying data, as LR already discussed earlier, in terms of XG, King is far superior, and XG non-penalty as well. So it's not just inflated by penalties. Goal attempts, all the underlying numbers are really in King's favor. And even you see the shot locations, King's shots are from a far more central locations. Then there's a lot of shots from outside the box, a lot of shots from wide positions. So in terms of quality and quantity of chances, I think King is superior. There's no doubt about that. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
No, do you think Dennis's overperformance is sustainable? Thing is, we don't have a precedent how good he really is. He could actually be really good. There's nothing to deny that, but there's no precedent.
We really don't know enough about him, and I think a lot of him have sort of been underrating him so far. But I think the AFCON thing is so huge. We know he's in the provisional squad, and I think Nigeria's main striker who plays for Napoli, Victor Osimhen, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. He probably might have an injury. So very likely that Dennis does get called up to the final squad. I just don't see any scenario in which he doesn't.
I don't. I'm in similar position. Yeah, Osimhen, he got basically his face fell apart, Skriniar, and it looked like 3 months it was going to be out, and now it looks like he might be playing with some kind of mask to try and get himself back earlier. And then he's very, hopeful of it, but the initial diagnosis was 3 months it would be out. I think you just have to look at it. And so the reason that people feel like Dennis isn't going to be part of it is that he fell out with a coach. That in itself is a really precarious position, in that actually the coach was sacked a few weeks ago and then they didn't have the money to sack him. So he's now not been sacked, so that's the common position they're in. They've got a manager that doesn't reside in the country. The discipline when they're there is bad. So that's why Dennis didn't do it, is it is indiscipline. But then since he's done that, Nacho and Ndidi have been caught out after they should be. Others have been caught out after they should be. It's not getting any better under this coach. And everyone kind of knows the coach should probably go. So now the coach is probably just going to say, this is my last tournament. I'm just going to pick the best players. Like, it's not like Dennis was the bad egg, there's a lot of issues in that team. But yeah, it looked like he was going, and then some, sort of legends like Okpara and Ikpeba have come out and spoke really, don't do it now. Don't do it now. We want to qualify for the World Cup. We want to do well in the AFCON. Let's get through to it. So I feel like the common ground is he stays, but Dennis comes back in. Because if you were it's that NFF, but the Nigerian Football Federation, I think it is, they call it, is you would want your main man to play. Yeah. And actually, just in a strange way, one of the reasons why that coach is going out is because it's a public funded position, the manager of Nigeria. So therefore it's a big deal. He's the most highest paid public official in Nigeria, so he's going to do what they tell him to do. So I just don't see a way Dennis doesn't go. And then you just got to do it. And now the same price, it just doesn't make sense. But then take all of it out and look at what the best option is. And it looks like King, doesn't it? I think we all think King from Bournemouth was more of a foil, and for Wilson. And then even at Everton, he was kind of the support man that came off the bench occasionally. I think when I've heard him speak this, it looks like he now wants to be that number 9 and doesn't want that role anymore. King for me.
Zoph?
My one concern now is let's not just talk about these guys. Let's talk about the other forwards as well. When Dennis departs, you know that Sarr is injured as well. Where are the chances going to be created for King from? I know we are sort of everyone's assuming that these guys are the default go-tos. You look at the numbers over here.
Yeah.
Benteke is far superior in terms of XG non-penalty. I know the rotation with Edward is a concern. But I think if money isn't an issue, I would possibly be going for Benteke over either of these guys.
Yeah, and I was looking at the fixtures also a little closer, and they aren't exactly great fixtures. They're good fixtures, they're steady fixtures. So Brentford away and Burnley away for Watford looks fairly decent. But after that, you have Palace at home, known to be a decent team. Then you have Wolves away, West Ham at home, Spurs at home. So the next 4 after Brentford and Burnley away, they do look a little so-so. And then you look at the Palace fixtures and they just look a little more attractive. They've got Everton at home, Southampton at home, Watford away, Spurs away, and Norwich at home. I know which set of fixtures I like more. So that is I mean, we were talking about potential moves yesterday, Zoph, and you were telling me that why don't you just look at Benteke as well? And he does look like an option. And now they do need points on the board, don't they, Palace? Because they've been getting some good performances, but not that many points on the table. So are you worried? How much do you think Vieira rotates, Baker?
Well, I think the good part about them is flip side. African nations for them is they'll lose Zaha and Ayew. So the main competition is that they play Edouard and they play 3 of their, wide men up front. So actually you take those 2 out and you feel like it will be probably Edouard, Benteke, Elise, Eze, maybe in the 10. So actually he's losing 2 people that potentially are in those forward roles. So Benteke, they're really reliant on him. That is interesting, actually. Hadn't really thought about Benteke. He's there, but I feel like I'm quite happy to take a punt short term on King. He's cheap. And the
thing with King and relative stats is off. I was looking at his numbers compared to every outfielder in the league since Ranieri's debut, and he's pretty much top 5, top 6, top 7 for all of them. Whether you're looking at XG, XGI, shots in the box, all those relevant underlying stats, he's right up there for a 5.7 million. Should we be asking more questions?
It's a price thing, absolutely, and I think it's fair to assess for the next few and take a call after that.
Would you save some more and go down to Broja?
It depends on the layout of your team. If you're looking at this guy as your first bench option, like a lot of us have Bumo in that role. If you're looking at him as someone who is going to come off the bench for somebody like Alonso or James, Broja is not bad.
But if he's your 7th attacker, then you go King.
No, exactly. Because you'd want nailed minutes for your 7th attacker.
Yep. And not missed a minute since game week 9. 90 minutes every week. That's something that counts. 90 minutes in penalties is something that's going to count in this December crunch as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else to add on this, or I think we can move on?
We can move on to Man City next.
Cool. So you wrote an article on City. Why don't you start just showcasing the numbers first?
Right. So these are the numbers over the last 6 game weeks. We can see that Bernardo and Rodri are the only 2 players to have played every minute, and that is again a very large appeal of Bernardo. We saw he was left out of the squad midweek. We saw Gundogan start, Foden come off with an injury. So in terms of expected goal involvement, he's up there. It's 2.31 over the last 6. He's behind Sterling and Gundogan. But what's interesting is his expected goals is just 1.72 from 9 shots. So that's an average of less than 0.2 XG per shot. So he's been converting them phenomenally well. Whether that's sustainable, you really don't know, because I think he's in just such a good vein of form that he could keep it going. And the chance creation numbers are also quite good. He's second for chances created with 9. But again, you look at the minutes. So that's about like with 540 minutes, that's a chance created every 60 minutes. Not that great. That's where it gets tricky with. But where are you guys on Bernardo?
Baker, why don't you go?
Sounds funny this, because we just talked about King and Dennis, and I like the stats for King. And you look at this, and I like the stats for the people probably other than Bernardo, but I just like Bernardo. Like I saw the press conference last week, midweek, when Pep was asked, is he, one of the best? And he just goes, the best. And you're like, as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, this isn't just now I should be thinking about it. This is saying I should be doing. And I felt like Rafinha had a good fixture. So I was like, I'm not going to go early, and obviously regret that now. Despite it wouldn't have been a big difference. But I just look at him and just think, man, it's what you can't see in this inspecting goal involvement is the finish last week. Not this weekend gone, before. The Jesus ball over and you bang that. What's that? That must be like a 0.1 XG expected goal involvement. you're not getting that. And we did even all walk away going, like, that's one of the goals of the season and all that stuff. We were just like, yeah, they're brilliant. And then you watch this week and similar, you're like, just enjoying it. Like that goal, the second goal was like, I think it was something like, again, was about 0.1, 0.2 XG. Stats are never going to pull that stuff into it. Just look at it and say, got the best manager in the world telling me this is the best player in the world, basically, because we're the best league. And I want it. And I can get it for under 8 million. You know, like Jota's a gift. Bernardo, to me, at the moment, is a gift. So those ones, I just feel, gift, take the gifts. And then your question is actually, do you try and find a way to get another one? And that's probably the different part for it. But for me, I just start at I want Bernardo.
Do you, if let's say Foden is fit, do you still prefer Bernardo to Foden?
Yeah, I do. And it's because of just the way that they attack. I did a bit on our pod this week about what I was quite critical of Tuchel last week, but just as the common way of which teams attack with a 5-man forward line, and City's way of attacking with a 5-man forward line is to use 2 wide players, and that enables 3 men to get through the middle. Now, that automatically means that Foden, being the best left foot they've got, is dragged. And he only gets these opportunities as such because they're so dominant. And therefore is in actually games where they're not maybe so dominant or where it's not going so well, he's actually just going to get wider and wider. Whereas you think, well, what do I want? I want one of those 3 that come through the middle. So actually what that does mean is, if you think about it, if you think about Liverpool, then Robertson is Foden, because they attack with a 5, and it's Robertson and Trent, and then the 3 forwards in the middle. So would I want Robertson, who gets plenty of goal involvement, or would I want Salah, who's playing the one inside on the right? I'm like, well, I want Salah. So why would I not want Bernardo? Because that's exactly the position he's playing.
The big difference in the Liverpool and the City play style in that analogy is, let's say the moment the ball goes to the right and it's with Sterling, Foden's instructed to come into the center of the box to add an overload and have one more man inside the box. So that's the only difference, whereas Robertson isn't. So that's that additional chance of a goal happening or an outlet to goal points that happens. But I'm with you. And I think, you know what, when it comes to XG overperformance, I think some people might be a little turned by the goals that Bernardo has scored, which is the right-footed curler that he scored in the last game, or the volley he scored in the game before that. But we've been talking about that in the last 6 weeks. Whenever the ball is out wide, 2 people are assigned to be in the center of the box the moment the balls are going wide, or they're going to Cancelo in the half space, and Gundogan and Bernardo are in there all the time, which is why I don't pay too much attention to the stats, because I think there isn't a big difference, especially in the last 6 or 8 game weeks where Pep is adapted to play in this manner for the season, because Pep changes the way he plays multiple times. And this is sort of a system that has happened in the last 6 to 8 weeks, where he's asking these 2 to bomb forward. Now, my question is, what happens now that De Bruyne is in? Because what used to happen last season when De Bruyne was playing is that the majority of the creative overload was with De Bruyne. So Pep's way of playing was, if you can, try give the ball to De Bruyne on that right-hand side midfield and let him put the cross in. But is Pep going to change something that's working so well at the moment? That's the real debate. Now, if it comes down to me ranking these 3 players, I have Foden, if fit, as number 1, because I just think he's the most direct of the lot. I think he's the most talented. He's got the best sense of a goal in terms of his playmaking style. When I watch him, Foden isn't doing... It doesn't ever look like Foden is going to get a hockey assist. It looks like he's going to be at the end of things when I'm watching them. When it comes to Bernardo and Gundogan, if KDB wasn't fit, my second choice would actually be Gundo, because we were talking about this. Gundo, just if you're watching the game, he's got a bigger sense in terms of where the ball is going to land, or a greater sense of finding the spaces where the ball lands for that goal scoring opportunity. And it isn't something that is I mean, if you think about all the Gundogan goals, they're fairly easy tap-ins. So he's in the right space at the right time more often. And that's just, I think, instinctively, he's more of a goal scorer. And Bilbao would be my third pick out of the three because of the reasons I mentioned. But we have a doubt with regards to Foden. The De Bruyne factor is a real factor. And Pep resting Bernardo Silva because... he's main man right now. I don't mind any of them. And I'm with you. I think you try getting two because City's squad is so big at the moment that even if your players rested maybe 1 and 4, which is what I expect out of Bilbao at the moment, I expect them to steamroll a few opponents, just generally because of how good they've been. It took them, 20 minutes to accumulate 1.3, 1.5 XG in the previous game against Watford. They're on the top of the game at the moment. And I don't mind a triple up also. Are you
monsters?
Monsters.
They are. Like I said, after half an hour of the game against Watford, they passed the total XG any other team in the league made this weekend in half an hour.
Yeah,
and not a penalty. That's just simple attacking. Just tough to not add. How do you get him in though? Who do you not have?
The compromise for me is Bowen at the moment, trying to get a third. I already have Foden and Cancelo, so I can get a third. My instinct is Gundogan, but I was worried about him playing 90 minutes midweek, and then Pep mentioning that, okay, he did it for rhythm. So the counter was, okay, he wants Gundogan to have some rhythm. So I don't know what to do. I'm happy to probably wait a week because Wolves aren't mugs. They're pretty decent defensively. So I'm hoping City don't steamroll them and I get one more week to assess. And then the money fixtures are coming after that. So maybe I just move a week later in terms of getting a third City player. That's where I am at the moment. But there's a lot of conversation around Grealish and Sterling as options as well at the moment, especially I think because Gabriel Jesus is injured, if I'm not mistaken. So possibly more minutes for Sterling on the right-hand side. That's where he played in the previous game as well. Utkarsh?
I think so. The thing with the benefit that we have City player this year is that they're out of the League Cup. So after these 3 fixtures, they have a full break in that week. So I think it's very possible we could see someone like Bernardo play all 3 this week. You get the full weeks of recovery after, and even the schedule around Boxing Day. I'll just pull this up here. I have Lego Mane's numbers up here. So you see the schedule for City. They have a bit of a longer break as well, right around then Leicester, Brentford, and all the stuff compared to some of the other teams. So the only schedule which is really a bit challenging is around game week 19 to game week 21. They have 3 games in 6 days. But then it's Leicester, Brentford, and Arsenal. These are not easy fixtures. So I don't think he's really going to take the risk of resting Bernardo. And the thing is, like you said, Foden's injury is sort of a turn-off now. Like, even if let's say he's declared fit, will Pep manage him? How will he carry him forward going on? So Foden is pretty much a no-go for me. Gundogan also, as we've seen, KDB might have an adverse effect. So I think Bernardo's your man. There's no need to look a gift horse in the mouth. No need to overanalyze his XG. He's playing well. Just get him in.
What do you think about Grealish playing false 9? Not convinced?
I think that's going to keep changing game by game because we were having this conversation earlier. We were discussing how KDB, Bernardo, and Gundogan fit in the same team. The answer would be one of them gets put into the false 9 position, assuming Rodri is a DM, in which case Grealish might go wide on the left. He might put Sterling on the left, stuff like that. So I think that false 9 position is still very much open.
All right. So you're basically saying it doesn't matter, and it's kind of stupid to anticipate what position Pep is going to be. It looks like Bernardo is going to have the greatest expected minutes, so just go with him. And I agree with that. If he's on the pitch, he's going to be amongst the goals, and at least you're buying one more ticket to those City points in terms of them being at least safer on paper compared to all the other assets.
It's as simple as that.
A couple of people are asking if they should keep Foden. It depends on Pep's press conference on Friday. If it looks like a niggle and he could be fit for the next game, I'd hold him because I don't think Wolves is the main game that you want Phil Foden for or your attacker for. It's the games after that. Now that Calvin Phillips is out, I think the Leeds home game is a good one. The Newcastle away game is a good one, and the Leicester game is a really good one. So these 3 games are the ones that I would want to look at getting a City double up in attack because they're the money games in my opinions in terms of getting points. I'd be surprised if I see Wolves concede 3 goals. I'm expecting them to score 2 goals, but they're a fairly compact unit in defense and have done pretty decently so far. So that's where I am.
They conceded so many chances to Liverpool. And do you think somebody like Bernardo is worth a hit this week? I'm in two minds about it.
Who are you selling?
Gallagher, but just forget whoever I'm selling. Do you think Bernardo, because the way we look at it, right, Bernardo is probably going to outscore most players by 4 points, unless you're selling Salah, obviously, over these next 3-4 games, right?
So if you just said yourself, mate, like if he plays 3 in a week, like literally a calendar week, like, are you comfortable like watching him 3 times in a calendar week and not having him?
I would be if it was the same old ownership Bernardo, and it was Bernardo of last year where he was like, assisting the assist, getting 6 goals or 5 goals a season, but he's got 7 already and we're not even halfway through. So now I'd be very uncomfortable.
Just while we're having this conversation, I'd want to cite a stat from my good friend, Jordi Vanderlaan. You'll find him on Twitter at the rate JOCCKI_FPL. And this is a little Bernardo stat, which I thought was quite interesting. So Bilbao had just a single game out of the 26 last season in which he posted an XG of greater than 0.25. This season, he's already had 5 games in which he's posted an XG greater than 0.25. So his role is changing in this new Pep system. So that's encouraging.
That's what it is. We have to adapt and change our thinking. And this is sort of where a lot of us struggle with Gundogan last year. We didn't think Gundogan was capable of hitting those numbers, but there's always a theme with Pep. There's one player who usually stands out. I think that might be Bernardo this year.
Agreed.
I'm not there yet with Bilbao at the moment. I think he's a good pick for his price. I just think that Gundogan might be better, which is why I just want to wait and see what happens, because I'm worried about that De Bruyne. I just think he's got a greater sense.
Absolutely.
The KDB factor. Right. Do you like Mount over any of these assets? Zoph, I'll come to you first.
So our fixtures, what we have, I like for the next 2 fixtures. I think the fixtures after that are a bit trickier. We play after Everton. We play who do we play? We are Leeds, Everton, then Wolves. Then we play Villa, Brighton, then Liverpool. It's not
City and Spurs.
Not the easiest run of fixtures. So I wouldn't really bother with getting Mount in right now. Personally, I think there are better options you can go to.
Baker, you're on the same page?
Trust the team more than I trust the Chelsea team right now.
Yep, and that's another thing. We're not playing well.
They're not playing well, is you've got the United game and then the Watford game and now this weekend, like they're not playing that well. And I do think, talked about it extensively, but suddenly they're not using their fullbacks in the way in which you would expect them to do so. And that I suppose is a big of a worry for me at the moment, owning both Alonso and James, I suppose. And I think that's maybe clouding my view a little bit on Mount, in that I feel like he's hurting me by taking the set pieces and being in the right place. But he is taking the set pieces and he is in the right place. So you do say again, maybe Tuchel is leaning on him to try and drag Chelsea through in a run of not playing so well. So I just feel like the system that Chelsea are playing at the moment is not quite the system it will be probably in a few games. I feel like Lukaku, they need something to stretch teams. They need to use players like Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi and Werner, players with pace that can start stretching teams, is because they won't get that many. They won't get that many chances. Now look at the fixtures and say Leeds at home. Yeah. Mount versus Firpo, quite like it. It's good if you've got him there, but I just feel like the priority's got to be the City midfielder over him for me.
Or even Bowen. I like Bowen more than Mount for the next 6.
Yeah, definitely.
He's played a sort of a different lineup today. He's playing Kepa as keeper, then he's got Aspi, Christensen, Sarr, Reese, and maybe Hudson-Odoi is a wing back on the other side.
Left wing back. That's what he said he would probably do.
And he's playing a runner with Lukaku. He's playing Werner, Lukaku, and Mount as a front 3. And that's something that strong lineup. And I think also he's testing out. I think Lukaku and Werner both need match sharpness as well, right? And why I think he's thrown Mount in there is because he wants them to get used to playing around each other, being around each other.
Probably why he's playing Reese as well.
develop that team chemistry as well. So that's the thing with Tuchel, right? He's a great coach. I mean, if we sitting your spot that they need a runner and need that team to be more dynamic, surely Tuchel sees that, and that's why I think he's done this in this game. So yeah, the one thing in my head also is I've still not written off Lukaku as an asset. I think he could very much be in our thinking soon, and I want to keep that third spot open just in case he explodes. I have Alonso and Reece James at the moment, so that's also a factor in my thinking.
It's interesting that Alonso is not playing. I think Alonso is more likely now to play all three next week than, let's say, Reece James.
Yeah, and I think it was nailed on for him to try Saul as a wing back in this game. No, but it's Hudson-Odoi playing as well.
Yeah. Saul as wing back would be disastrous. Hudson-Odoi is probably.
He keeps mentioning it in his press conferences.
He has mentioned it. I'd be interested to see how it plays. I'll be over the moon if it's Hudson-Odoi and Werner around Lukaku. I say over the moon, like I'm a Tottenham fan, so I'm not that over the moon, because that's how I want Chelsea to play, is that I want them to play with two quick men around Lukaku, and I think Mount should be the number 10. So therefore, those points that he scored last week, he wouldn't be in those positions to do it, but he will still take the set pieces. But I just feel like they'd be in a much better position with him in the 10 and two quick men around Lukaku. I just feel like it's, and then I think as soon as you bring those quick men back into play around Lukaku, then it frees up the wing backs. So yeah, it'd be good to see whether it's Hudson-Odoi or Saul.
While we're on the topic of Chelsea, Zoph, a lot of people have been asking, getting a little impatient with the Chelsea defenders. I think Reece is a definite hold. You don't even think about that. But people are getting a little iffy with Alonso and maybe thinking of downgrading to generate some cash. What's your thoughts there?
One thing to keep in mind with this whole African Cup of Nations being done earlier is Kepa is going to be in goal likely very, very soon for about 3 to 4 game weeks. So that we're expecting that around maybe game week 19, game week 20. And that's right when around Chelsea's fixtures start to stiffen as well. So probably keep them for the run of the next 3. I like Leeds, Everton, Wolves. But after that, I think it's probably a good idea to at least downgrade one of them, because you also have the Club World Cup, which is coming around 24, 25. I know this is a ways away, but it is a problem.
I won't lie. I'm worried about Alonso in that Leeds game, because he doesn't like to run, and those Leeds players like to run a lot. Despite
that's why he's rested today. Makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
So that he has energy for that one. But his aerial ability at set pieces, I'm happy he's not taking corners anymore. He's actually in the box attacking corners. He's much better at those.
So hold Reece for sure. If you have to generate funds, would you sell Alonso?
Yes.
Or you hold for 2 no matter what?
I would like to hold for the next 2 weeks. The next 2 home fixtures look good to me. Maybe even the Wolves fixture you can look to sell, because maybe if you need money for somebody like a Bowen, that's a move I'm looking to do, to generate funds for Boomo to Bowen. I could download, let's say, Alonso to a Zophar right about then. And I think that would transition well into West Ham's run of fixtures.
Cool. Let's move on.
Let's move on to Bowen, in fact, since we are talking about West Ham.
Right. I think we just talk about Bowen and Antonio both as options together. And if you have to prioritize one at the moment, I think you definitely need to have a West Ham attacker in there. And I think both of you own Antonio. Would you buy Antonio now, despite his performance in the past 7, 8 game weeks?
Yes.
Taker?
Self-answered, yes. I think this is the issue. Like I've talked for my own, but I've got him. I've kept him through all of this pain, but I thought there were better signs. I thought there were better signs around the team, around working around him. They're definitely working as a partnership. Almost more creative was Antonio than Bowen in that section. But the thing with Antonio is that you just know he could do a hat trick. That he's got it in him. Those things can happen, and I like having him. And I like so many midfielders, and I like very few attackers. So therefore, it's like I'm quite happy to give a spot to Antonio, but I'm looking at that spot and I'm thinking maybe I want double City midfield, and I definitely want Salah and Jota. That's just not going to go away. And it's like, do I move to a 3-5-2 to do it? Not sure I'm in that position. And therefore, I think it's an easy priority for me to go to Antonio. And I think good value.
Do you
under 8
think
million now.
Bowen's a good pick irrespective? Do you have any problems doubling up on that attack?
He's a fabulous pick. I mean, the only thing that's probably hurting Bowen is actually these centre backs just keep getting injured. Saying that, they're still because he takes set pieces. So, Zuma's a brilliant header of a ball. Ogbona's a brilliant header of a ball. He's 2 of those taken out. But hey, Souček, Dawson, and Diop are pretty good too. So they just keep reeling out these 7-foot tall men that just keep getting up there, the big boys. But Cresswell, with a bit of injury doubt at the moment, it's if he's not getting younger as well, Cresswell. Like at the moment, Bowen's got full reign of those set pieces. He's got many ways to score, and he's often the furthest forward. I do worry about these fixtures being quite close together because that's where they've got their options. Lanzini's doing well when he comes in. Benrahma's certainly not doing anything wrong. Fornals has missed out. Like it's always 3 into 4 for those positions. So I feel like there's always opportunities that they could rotate. Whereas Antonio, they just need him. And I just feel like the whole team, Moyes' comments at the moment, talking about we want to feed him. We want to get him back because they know he's just such a massive part of their game.
I agree with most of what you said, but I still expect Bowen to play more games than Antonio. Because, in terms of rotation, because there's this one particular around Boxing Day, the turnaround 26th to 28th. I think Bowen is more likely to play both of those games than Antonio is. Don't you think so, LR?
What's the time period difference?
48 hours.
48 hours. Yeah, I don't see Antonio playing 2 games in 48 hours. I'd be very, very surprised if I see that happening. I just think, chances that Bowen plays are definitely greater in terms of, and Bowen could even play striker in one of those games because I don't think they have anybody else capable of playing in that role either.
They played him as false 9 when Antonio, I think, was suspended for one of the games, something like that. And I'll just walk through some numbers we have on Bowen from the Fantasy Football Scout article. Over the last 6 game weeks, he's 4th for expected goal involvement amongst midfielders, and he's 5th overall for the last 12. So it's not something that's just a flash in the pan. He's been posting great numbers. He's been 4th overall for shots in the box all season. Only problem with him slightly is his conversion rate is quite poor. That's why he's been suffering. And you look at Antonio for the last 6 game weeks in terms of forwards for expected goal involvement, he's 17th. But the chances created, you see, he's 1st. Shots in the box, he's 19th. So there's been definitely a big drop over here. You still see him top for expected goal involvement and stuff like that, but that's purely because of the minutes. He's played for most of the season. That's why you see him high. But I do think Antonio plays a different role against these weaker sides, and that's what this new graph indicates. This is from a new feature in the Scout members area. And again, I would recommend highly signing up. We've taken some snippets from the article, but there's more data like this available every week. Antonio against the weaker teams has much better goal numbers, and I think the role will change slightly. Right now, they're using him sort of as a runner to stretch these big guys, and I think in the easier teams is where you see him sitting in the middle and be receiving a lot more service.
Yep, he blows Bowen out of the water for stats when it comes to underlying numbers against weaker opposition. And he plays more of a creative role against tougher opposition, which is what West Ham have been facing in the past few weeks. So that is something that's making me think. In my position, Zoph, you'd prioritize Antonio over Bowen, given the fixtures that we have?
I think so. I generally trust Antonio a lot more.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this one before, mate, but I'm looking at that now and I'm like,
yeah,
Antonio.
and you remember all those Antonio Horst, their Norwich home. He's a proper flat track bully. He's a proper
that's the hat trick thing I said about it, is we know he can turn up and score 4 goals in a game against a team when they're down, and there's that bit when he just scores one where you think, uh-oh. I remember like when you took him out on Wildcard, how every week you were like, got away with it. And that first week and second week. And, maybe that fear's gone away a little bit, but I feel that fear could come back really quickly. And I think it's something we should plan for.
Yep. So I was thinking about King as my Tony replacement until yesterday. But I'm thinking a lot more about Antonio now. I think it might be the right time. It's not like when we're watching him, he looks sluggish. He looks pretty good. at the moment. He doesn't look not sharp. So yeah. Any comms for you in terms of doubling up on the West Ham attack? Neither of you all have problems doing that either. I just think at his price, Bowen is a good pick given the underlying numbers he has and the fixtures that he has. So if your team, if you are already set up in a 3-5-2, let's say like you, Baker, you don't have to change the formation and you can move either a Gallagher or a Rafinha to a Bowen quite comfortably. Would you do it?
I'd prioritize City first. Like they're still going to be that way. But if it isn't, and I can do it, then I think he's definitely there. I feel like suddenly we're in a position where the sort of £7 million, £6.5 million ones now are differentiating themselves from those 5.5 ones, because the 5.5 ones have sort of gone up to a £6 million midfielder in terms of price rises, but they're sort of now performing at the 5.5 level again. Whereas it feels like we should make that gear step up and get the 6.5, the Bowen, and you know, we know about Jota and Gundo, Ronaldo, and Foden and the like, but it feels like if you can get there, do it. I guess the big question we talked about earlier about is one of the easy ways we can do it is we've all invested well in the back, and it's which ones do you compromise on? I don't think any of us are compromising probably on Cancelo, James and Trent at any time, and it's that fourth one. So for me, it's Alonso, many it's Alonso, and it's like, well, I might need to move that down. So yeah, interested on some of these 4.4, 4.5 defenders of whether they can make us make it fun for us with an extra midfielder.
Right.
We move on to Man United. Since we are talking about cheap defenders, we can possibly touch upon Dalot in this section.
Before we move on to United, I just want to say we got about 930 watching us live at the moment, and just about 180 or likes, guys. Make sure you're hitting like and subscribe, because that helps the whole YouTube algorithm and just helps us get discovered. So do your thing. It's clicking one button. Anyway, moving on to United.
Right. So,
Baker, you want to talk about United? Sorry,
you should start.
We were talking about a 4.4 million defender.
Dalot. What do you think about Dalot? Before we touch upon Ronaldo, I know that's something we have a lot to cover and unpack over there. I enjoyed watching Dalot. I thought he offers so much more going forward than Wan-Bissaka, and the fixtures, they don't really look like the fixtures where you're going to have to defend as much. What do you think?
I think before we move on to Dalot, let's just try breaking down what a certain Rangnick did in his first game and what we can expect from United going forward. So here we have these charts from Marim. Is that right, Baker?
Yeah, Marim per 90.
Yeah, and you should definitely follow her. She does excellent analysis on United and churns out amazing charts week on week. Definitely a great follow. And the first thing that I noticed when I saw the game, and the first thing that you notice when you see this bit, is just how compact we are and how high we are pressing. I've not seen a United team pressing that high in dog years. Like, it was the first time I've seen Lindelof and Maguire beyond the halfway line. I don't remember them being beyond the halfway line. Maybe they are just when we're controlling possession too much in a game, but this is right from minute one. We were so compact. The spaces between the players were so small compared to how much it was earlier. And that's just taking away a lot of weaknesses that we have in our team. And it's sort of exaggerates the talents that are available at Rangnick's disposal. Because what happened, he sort of played like a Southampton sort of a setup, which was a 4-2-2-2, where Ronaldo and Rashford played as strikers, Bruno and Sancho played as 10s, which are in the half spaces, and they were sort of interchangeable. And Fred and McTominay were your deep lying midfielders. Dalot and Telles played as wingers pretty much. I wouldn't even call them wing backs because they were so far up the pitch. We were playing such high risk football, and it felt like we were in control, which was his favorite word throughout the game. And that's why Dalot becomes a good option, because in attack, he's definitely better than Wan-Bissaka. And there was a lot of chances that came through Telles as well as Dalot. Zoph, if you can move to that ball progression image, please. Let me know when we have that.
You're talking about the defensive territory one, or the one before that? The progressive
one with
passes.
the
Progressive passes. Yes, that's up now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you see here is that a lot of the play that United did, when you're looking at this chart, number one, always in terms of progressing passing, is Bruno Fernandes. In this case, it was the two wingbacks who you can see their lines. You can see the blue line that indicates the passing that Dalot did, and you can see the red lines that indicates the passing that Telles did. And they dictated so much of the play from both their sides, which I thought was great. I've not seen so much attacking impetus from our wingbacks again in a long, long time. So that's something that happened. And that's why Dalot is a good option, provided Rangnick is not just testing his players and not just testing the lay of the land. That is my only caveat. If you're jumping in on a Dalot this early, is that he's a risk. He's not nailed on to play all the games. He could easily have one poor game in his next two, and then Rangnick decides, okay, you know what, I'm going to give Wan-Bissaka a shot. But ability-wise, he's better than Wan-Bissaka in attack. So that's where I am with these wingbacks at the moment.
You want to see Wan-Bissaka on the bench, don't you? And Dalot in the starting team. And then you're like, this is exciting now. But you do look at it and think, could I imagine Wan-Bissaka doing what Dalot did? And you can't really. Is you can imagine, sure, maybe doing what Telles did. But so that's, again, going to be an interesting one. But it's a real difference in playing. And as mentioned a bit earlier on the Chelsea attack with a 5, Liverpool attack with a 5, City attack with a 5. 4-2-2-2 is really interesting in that nobody plays it. So it's an unusual one in that actually it requires 6 attackers because you're playing 2 central attacking midfielders. Probably the easiest way if anyone's played it is sort of like it's an old FIFA formation where what you would do is play a bit more narrow and you use the fullbacks to be wide and bomb on. So those 2 ones tucking in and then the 2 in front. So what you ended up with on that previous one that's Zophar shared is the average touch map position for those front 4, there was less than 20 yards circumference around those people. That actually could really massively overload it. And it could also be a little bit congested at times if it doesn't work. So that's going to be what we need to try and look at. But they're reliant on those fullbacks providing width, and that could be really good news. Telles, I know he's a lot more on there, but if he really makes that position his own, his dead ball delivery is fantastic. He could well be an option as well if we want to spend a bit more money. Just the whole team, though, just progressive. That is high. And I think what you see is, talked a lot about the fact that he just really had video sessions. Video sessions will tell you where you need to be. Me as a Tottenham fan saw that with Conte, that the first thing they do is they start playing in the positions that he's told them and do the right things, like close people down quickly if that's what you want and press in the right places. And they do that because you can take that instruction from just watching a flip chart or presentation. I'm sure it's much more advanced than just a flip chart, but the actual, how do we actually create goals and how do we do it? That is practicing phases of play. So I feel like that part only gets better, and it'd be really interesting to see how that starts to play out. We don't know the lineup yet, do we, for tonight?
Not yet.
But I'm hopeful that he really tries to rest a lot because I feel like he wants to strike hard this weekend. Be fun.
Yeah. I just want to indulge a little more in terms of tactically what weaknesses he's trying to cut down, because it's the first time I'm really excited to talk about United from a tactical standpoint. And the problem with our team for the last 2 or 3 years is that we've just got one creative hub outside of Shaw, and that was Bruno Fernandes. And he was the basic plan was to give the ball to Bruno and let him play a low percentage creative ball and try to find one of the attackers, and that was pretty much it. Now what happens here is, first of all, he's gotten another really creative attacker into the starting 11, which is Jadon Sancho, which is why he was bought, because he's one of the best attacking creative players who knows how to ball progress in Europe, and he's going to, I think, stick with him in the team. But when it comes to Jadon Sancho as an FPL asset, the one thing I'm worried about is he might actually be a great or a better real life player for United compared to him being having a high percentage of goal involvement, because I think ball progression is going to be his primary role. So I'm not really sure about Sancho as an FPL asset yet. People are asking me about Rashford as an FPL asset. The thing that Ranić said in his press conference was that he played Rashford so that he could stretch the field vertically, because Rashford runs behind the last man and he's the only one with that skill set. He's sort of unique out of all our squad players in terms of the explosive pace that he had, but I thought his performance was quite average in terms of how he ended up playing in the game. And we do have Cavani, who's also a press monster, who's capable of playing in that position. We do have Martial, who's capable of playing in that position. And we do have Mason Greenwood, who's capable of playing in that position. So if you ask me, out of our attackers from an FPL point of view, at the moment, the only one I can quite confidently recommend is Ronaldo and nobody else. Because I still feel like he's going to give a few players a chance. Players like Lingard and Martial and Greenwood and Van de Beek, who's also capable of playing in those inside 10 roles. They're no mugs. And I feel like Ranić might give them chances. I'm not quite sure yet. The only one I'm quite sure of, only because of talent, is Jadon Sancho, and he's the only other creative player that we have. But I don't know if he's going to be a good FPL asset. The player I like is Cristiano Ronaldo, because it seemed like everything was directed towards him. He was still the focal point of our play. What we saw while playing the game is that we knew how to hold shape and we knew what to do off the ball. And on the ball, we were better than previously because the players were closer to each other. But I still think there was not enough team chemistry, and obviously because he's had one half of a training session with his players so far. I can only see that improving. I was quite encouraged in terms of what I saw. And what you see here is where we won possession through our defensive actions as well. And what you see here, what Mariam did with these charts, is she broke down the field into 5 segments. And normally under Ole, this season and in the previous season, in the second out of the 5 quadrants closer to the goal, we won possession average around 15% of the times. In this game against Palace, we won it 26% of the times. And a lot of those times we won possession in that 26%, it led to shot creating actions as well, which is something that encourages me as well. So I do think that we're going to get better, and the run of fixtures for United are great. And the one thing that people are worried about going for a Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment is that there is a thought in their head that if you're really pressing, you're supposed to run your lungs out, which was not Ronaldo's role. Ronaldo, if you look at these 5 quadrants, he's probably going to be in the quadrant which is in the 3% or the 4% bracket. His job is not to press that player and make sure he doesn't pass. His job is to just make smart movements either to the left or to the right and cut down a passing lane based on how the press is getting directed. That's about it. So that worry that people have in their head that, okay, you know what, he has to run, press, going to get exhausted. I don't think that's going to be much of a worry. And I have already shifted to Ronaldo. And I think he's a good pick for the next few.
Got a league team, boys. We've got a league team for tonight. FPL Escapades has put in Henderson in goal, Wan-Bissaka, Bailey, Mengi, Shaw, Donny and Matic in midfield, Mata, Lingard, Alanga behind Greenwood. Ronaldo not in the squad.
Lovely. Love that.
Ronaldo captain, nailed LR?
Not nailed, but it's been something that's been on my mind. You want to do the captaincy discussion now only?
No, I just wanted to dangle that out there. But we'll come back to it.
You're getting on it.
But in general, I think we should talk a bit about Ronaldo. His numbers have been great. He's top for the last 4 game weeks for shots in the box, shots on target, big chances, etc., etc. So I think now with the Spurs postponement, especially, a lot of people who have Kane are going to move to Ronaldo. And the one concern everybody has is primarily minutes. With the game so close, and I'm not as concerned maybe as I should be. I don't know, because the noises Ranić has made ever since coming is he's sort of full of adulation for Ronaldo. There's news that he actually discussed it with the board before coming, and Ronaldo just looked to be the focal point of everything. All the passes, all the chances created, the ball, like he could have easily had a brace against Palace, I think, on another day. He was just a little bit off the passes, not very far off. I think he's a great option if you have Kane, and even if you have somebody like Son, let's say you have a couple of other injuries, it's a good opportunity to move those funds forward. Because we also have to start thinking about captaincy now, with Salah departing a bit earlier than we thought he was. So
possibly departing. It's not confirmed that
possibly, obviously, possibly departing. So ultimately, who else are we looking at as a captaincy options besides him for that period?
I mean, I still think from Liverpool, like I know they will lose Mane and Salah, but Jota and Trent are still, for me, are valid options. Trent just accumulates bonus just so quickly that I'm like, if I can get 9 points a week or more off Trent, quite happy with it. So I can see them in a way being more methodical in that period. So I don't think we should just completely dismiss them. City, Bernardo, at the moment,
Captain?
like I'm not saying it's no, but I'm not saying I'm fully against it. But Ronaldo's the obvious standout. And Antonio, we've all done it at some point this season. He could be the man. You'd trust Antonio a lot more than you would Bowen for it. It becomes
Definitely.
like that Son Kane thing again.
Definitely.
So having those players like Ronaldo, Antonio, we're all going to have Jota and Trent in our teams. I feel like it's going to be fun because I feel like they could all end up being over 100% owned, those players. But we'll have the choice of which one we pick. But yeah, it's good. It's good for the game.
All right. So what happened in the past 4 weeks is all three of us on our respective podcast picked up a certain Harry Kane as well, and he's been quite miserable as a pick. Do want to mention the fact that shout out to Let's Talk FPL, who said that his XGI in the past 4 weeks was actually higher than Heung-min Son, and Heung-min Son got 3 returns, Kane got none. So it was worth pointing out that the process wasn't completely wrong. But let's play devil's advocate here. And what would worry you, or why do you think Ronaldo wouldn't be a good pick? The only thing that comes to my mind is we're reading too much from Yannick's first game, and we could still actually be quite shit. I don't see that because I think there's enough talent on the pitch. And the second thing is the risk of rotation for a 12.5 million asset. That's about it. Anything else because I think we should play devil's advocate.
Absolutely agree. And I think it's more of the second rather than the former for most people, because nobody doubts Ronaldo's pedigree. Nobody doubts the potential, the creativity that's there in the Man United squad. Nobody doubts Ranić, what he can do and bring to United. Is primarily minutes, and I think he's going to start at least 5 of the next 6.
All right. While we're on the topic of minutes, I just want to give a shout out to FPL Focal, who's ranked number one in the world right now. You guys, if you're not following him on Twitter, you should absolutely do that right now. He put out quite an interesting tweet, which spoke about Ronaldo's minutes in the most condensed schedule for Juventus. And this is what it read. 2nd December, 90 minutes. 5th December, Serie A game, 90 minutes. 8th December, Champions League game, 90 minutes. 13th December, 90 minutes. 16th December, 90 minutes. 19th December, 82 minutes. And then 22nd December, 90 minutes. Not dropped in any. Didn't play 8 minutes out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in 22 days. Yep. And this was in 2020. This was last December. So just talking about his physical fitness as well. Probably Rangnick, it won't be as extreme as this because United do have a bigger squad. We do have a Cavani who's capable of shifting that role with him, who's pretty good as well. So, but in terms of physical fitness, this does ease away my worry a little. What do you guys think?
And they want 2 of them up front. So it's like, it's not now before where it's just one that's playing for it. He wants a second man up there. So therefore, I feel like it plays him even more because there's room for Cavani, there's room for Rashford, there's room, maybe not Martial. He didn't even make the bench, did he? So that sounds like
injured.
Not good. He's injured again, is he? He's always injured.
But close to fitness. I know that.
Right. So the only caveat I would give I didn't know about those numbers. That's very encouraging. The only caveat possibly is Ranić's style is very demanding. But I don't think Ronaldo will have that issue. And you had mentioned something about a flat track bully. I want you to elaborate further on that.
His numbers. Flat track bully.
Baker got us some numbers.
Yeah, I did some looking last season about. I remember when he came in, there was talk that he might be the flat track bully, and I thought, I need to try and find that, and I couldn't find it, so I went and just looked at some stats. So I took the bottom third. I like to work coming threes because Rano did his old, the brand bills and the colour.
We just had some audio breakup there, Baker. Could you just repeat what you said?
Oh, yeah. So went and did some reviews on Ronaldo last season and where he's, how he did against that bottom third team. So the bottom 7 teams in the league in Serie A, thinking of Pranel's old way of the brambles in some of his old articles. And so I mapped out just how they did. So 14th place, Udinese. He scored 4 goals in the 2 games against them. Spezia at 15th, 3 goals. Calgary, 5 goals. Torino, 1 goal. Benevento, I don't know how to pronounce that. No goals, but only played 1 game. Bertoni, 2 goals in 1 game. And Palmer, 2 goals in the 2 games. So in the 12 games he played against the bottom 7 teams, he scored 17 goals last season. 1.5 a game. That's just not factor fully. That's obscene numbers. He got 1 hat trick, 6 braces, 2 singles, blank 3 times. He is it. And away as well as home, doesn't matter. Is in fact, I think more of his braces were away from home than they were at home. He just loves it. He just loves it. He's greedy. He doesn't want to miss those games. The 2 he missed out of those games, one of them he had COVID, and the other one he was injured. So no rotation, no resting in those easier fixtures. He loves playing them. He loves stat padding. He loves the goals, and he likes to get more than 1 goal. So it is, even if you consider, like, say, Udinese, so if you think Premier League, say, stronger, for example, and therefore you feel like, well, the bottom team there doesn't match the bottom team in that one, I'm sure there's probably not that much difference between Palmer and Norwich, but let's just say 14, 15, 3 goals, 16, 5 goals. So he just loves playing.
Because doing a fabulous job of reinforcing those numbers by just reading them out again.
Just keep reading them.
Keep reading them.
Just keep saying it again. 17 goals in 12 games.
It's unfortunate that Zoom isn't cooperating. I'm having a lot of breakup here in that section going forward. Zoom is awful.
Basically, Ronaldo scored 17 goals in 12 games against the bottom third of the Serie A, and he's a flat track bully. That's about it.
You should all take turns just reading out the same stats over and over. Just keep going.
Yeah. Zoph, do we have the audio back on track? Audio gone is saying.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Yeah. We'll just wait. We'll wait for a minute till it settles itself. What do you think we should
just
do?
Keep talking. Let's just move to the review section.
All right, let's move. A few people are thinking we should restart the stream, or we should just... the video seems fine to me now.
I think it should be fine.
The audio is...
I think it should be back. Probably just bad connections at the end. I think we can keep going. Let's just try for another 5 minutes. If not, we'll restart.
Okay, because everybody is saying audio is poor at the moment. I don't know if we should even continue.
No, it's fine now. I can tell when it's breaking up at my end.
Cool. All right. And Baker, don't worry. People did get a hang of all the Ronaldo stats that you read them out for the first time. So I don't think that is something we lost. So don't worry about that.
Cool. Audio's fine. We're getting messages now. So looks like it's fixed.
All right. Great. Just in case you missed it, 17 goals in 12 games, Cristiano Ronaldo in the bottom third against the Serie A flat track bully. Cool. What do we talk about now, Zoph?
I'm just wondering if there's anything we haven't touched upon from the last game week. I think we have pretty much covered it all. We've covered Watford, Man City, Leeds. I think we've covered Rafinha. I think we can talk about maybe Rafinha is a strong sell, I would say.
Yep.
Easy.
I want to talk about one player because people are looking for money, if especially they want to fund a Ronaldo into their team, and they might struggle to generate funds. What do you guys think about a certain Ramsey who plays for Aston Villa, whose fixtures after Liverpool read Norwich, Burnley, Chelsea, Leeds, Brentford? Is he a 7th attacker material? Because he's very attacking in that Villa team, and I'm wondering, is this sort of a cheat code player that we're sort of missing out on, costing 4.5 million, enabling us to have Ronaldo and a pretty strong team otherwise in terms of City players as well? It's something that's playing on my mind because Villa are good, and I like Ramsey. Every time I see him, he looks good. He's very attacking as well. He didn't play in the front three. He played in the front three in the previous game, but not before that. He's in that 4-3-3, he does have a role. What do you guys think about that?
I think he's a Brownhill. He's a Brownhill or a Gilmore.
I don't know. I think he's better than that. I genuinely think he's better than that. I quite like the look of this Villa team. I quite like the look of those Villa fixtures. Am I stretching in terms of thinking that Ramsey could be an answer to enable some funds?
I think so.
I think it's a little stretch. You also have to be, for anyone looking at this, really clear, because I think there's two of them, isn't there? Because there's the brother as well, and like the same price or 0.1 in it. So make sure you choose the right one if you're looking at them. But I like him, and I do think I've mentioned about McGinn and him. You know, he's a young lad, and you can't help but feel like he's going to pick up from working with Gerrard. That's part of it. Like if Gerrard wasn't the manager, I'm not sure you'd be like this. But I could see us thinking, working with Gerrard, suddenly he's going to learn a bit more about how to make those sort of late runs, those late strikes. He looks confident. I like him. You know, so if you were looking for somebody in that price bracket, then I feel like, yeah, good.
There's no question in my head is the best 4.5 out there. I think I probably have a conversation with Adam Hopcroft and Tom Freeman. If you guys are listening, we're going to probably come to you in the chat tomorrow and ask you all about Ramsey, because I just do like him as an enabler. That's all.
I feel like it's too low. I guess it's a case of, what do you get for it?
Yeah, he was in the Villa front three the last game, and I think you pay attention to that. And outside of that, Gerrard's been playing him as well. So just something I wanted to touch upon, because he could be a potential cheat code to enable a few attackers, especially Ronaldo. That's all.
Like him, but watch him.
Yeah.
Probably,
Cool.
I don't mind him at all. He's probably better than your Brownhill or Gilmore's, but as somebody had to play every week, I think that's possibly stretching it. I'd rather prefer like a 4.5 defender. You play every week if you had to go that route.
Norwich, Burnley, Leeds, Brentford in the next 6. Those are good fixtures as well. Just
right, but they do have other players, right? They still have Buendia. We saw him put Ashley Young on the wing as well. So they do have options for players in that front three.
While we're on the topic of Villa, 7.5 million, Ollie Watkins as an option. I think
I like him.
He's a good option. Looks like he's going to be nailed. His fitness is great, so I wouldn't be worried about him playing 90 minutes week on week in this fixture crunch. Good option.
Good option.
Good option. But think of it this way, price-wise, like
City mid or...
Exactly. We all carry a 4.5 mid. Yeah, so you could almost have Brozier and Gundo for the same price as, say, Watkins and Ramsey. Nah.
Yeah, and I don't like him as much as Antonio, despite Antonio's performance in the past few.
Do you like him more than Bowen?
That's the question, but again, there's a 1 million price thing. But yeah, still have him below Antonio in the pecking order for both of you all as well.
Very much so. And I would say immediately no. My immediate answer to the Bowen question also, no, I like Bowen more.
Do you think, I should just digressing a little, because they do have injuries in defense at the moment. And, Moyes might be thinking that Dawson and Diop are not as good as Ogbono and was playing Zuma. And he might, to strengthen up his defense, he might be playing 3 at the back again. And I noticed that when they play 3 at the back, Bowen, that's what I noticed in the Chelsea game. Bowen's just a lot more closer to goal.
The second striker.
When he's playing 2 up front. So do you see them doing that more often?
Might do, because you got Cresswell, if he comes back, might come back as that
third LCB. Exactly.
And it might mean
Masuaku left wing back.
Yeah, Masuaku and Kufau. So that might be a problem for Johnson, because I don't feel like he could quite carry off the right wing back role as well as Kufau. But you've got Masuaku and Lanzini as well was more of a 10. So therefore, if you went to sort of a 3-5-2, then potentially, and Ben Rama can play in the 10. He's done that. Brent in the past.
Potentially more rotation for Bowen if you think they've moved him.
But that's a lot of attackers to be leaving on the bench when he does go to a back 3, right? Assuming he plays Bowen, and let's say he plays like a Benrahma, that's still Lanzini you're leaving out. That's Fornals you're leaving out. Vlasic, I don't know if he's fit or not, but they have they have more attackers fit than they do defenders at the moment, right? So that makes me more think that he's going to play with the 4, and the fixtures are easier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd point that out. That's all.
Makes sense.
Laporta and Jesus are in training at the moment as well. So worth pointing out that
What about
Gabriel
Foden?
Jesus isn't injured. I don't know. Karan Sharma just pointed out in the chat. I trust him. He's a regular on the pod as well. So just thought.
I see his training Foden today. Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to the next game week's preview, where we actually might have a discussion on captaincy this time around.
Yes. Right. So what happened today morning was since 2 days, the Ronaldo thing after the Palace game has been playing on my mind, and we knew that Baker was going to come on the board, and we had a little WhatsApp chat, and I just messaged Baker saying, I'm going to ask you about how Norwich were against Spurs, because I'm interested in knowing how they were against Spurs, because their defensive numbers have been pretty decent ever since Dean Smith has taken, but their opponents have been quite shit as well. So I did want a proper eye test perspective in terms of, I did notice that Norwich got 60% possession against your Lord Baker, but how were they in defense? Were they organized? Did they keep a lot of open spaces? Why don't you elaborate?
I think the interesting thing for them coming to us is that they changed formation for the first time under Dean Smith. So they played basically the Villa almost formation at the start of the season with Ida and Pookie up front, and then a three in midfield, and then they put Hanley, Omo and Gibson in defence. So you thought, this looks like on paper when they're going to come to us, they're going to do that sit in. It's not, and they can try sitting in a bit more, but it's Ben Gibson, Grant Hanley. You know, they're not very good. So the more they sit, the more that trouble they'll get themselves into, because you just know they're going to make mistakes and give up chances. And then the second they try and come out from a 5, they just leave themselves wide open. So you look at you think about, they've got 3 centre-backs, and the way that Reggie and Son cut them open for that goal there that shouldn't happen when you're playing 3 centre-backs and then playing full backs like Aarons and Williams, who are solid. They're not over-exciting. They're proper 5 at the back. And then the 3 midfielders in McLean, Gilmore and Lees Malou, like, they're defensive midfielders. So you've effectively got a back 8. Like, how's a team getting in behind you when you're playing a back 8? Doesn't make a huge amount of sense to me. They conceded 10 shots, from Tottenham from central area. So from, say, the 6-yard box to about 20 yards out, 10 shots in that area, in that channel. That to me feels really odd if you've got 5 at the back and then 3 in front of them. I can see your face. I know. Central area, 10 chances.
12 games, 17 goals.
It just feels like whatever they try, they're not actually very good. So therefore, they're just going to hand it over. And actually, if they try and play more defensive, it's a problem. Like, I actually thought the best thing that they did when Dean Smith came in is they tried to go real combative, at teams a bit more, force them back. But it'd be very interesting to see how they are this weekend. I think Norman potentially is back. And so maybe they go back to how they were playing. Maybe Gilmore goes a bit further forward. I don't think he's strong enough to hold a central defensive midfield position. I feel like he's much better slightly a bit further in front. Their stats look okay. The one stat I will say is only Burnley have conceded more chances from central positions in the last 6 games.
So it's a good time to zag if you feel like it. Yeah. The only reason also why this has been playing on my mind a lot is because of that Villa performance against City. I thought they were really, really good. I thought this gave City a proper game. I was surprised to see a team have control over City for the first time in a long, long time, except for Liverpool and maybe Chelsea. I haven't seen anybody do that against Manchester City, and I was very impressed to see a Gerrard team doing that. So that's why it's been playing on my mind a little bit. Liverpool are at home. And Salah is in the form of his life. So it takes a lot. You're on mute, Baker. It does take a lot to bet against Mo Salah with giving Ronaldo the armband. And the one thing that is playing on my mind is that we do have a very tight fixture congestion in the next 3 games as well. So if we're leading 2-0 or 3-0, if we are, having a good performance and if you're leading. And will I be surprised to see Ronaldo protected and being subbed off at 60 minutes? Maybe not, given the options we have in that position. So that's the caveat that I'm worried about when it comes to maybe thinking about giving Ronaldo the armband. Why don't we bring Zoph into the conversation? I know you're not going to be tempted. I'd be very surprised. I'd actually put good money on you putting the armband on Salah. But do you think it's too much of a risk this week, Zoph?
I think it's a risk any week when Salah is at 200% EO. Simple as that.
But knowing how I play the game and putting away EO aside, knowing that I don't want to care about that, do you think there is...
I haven't seen enough from United yet to go there. Simple as that. Because I think against Palace also, you guys had control, but you didn't have penetration. You didn't have creation. Yeah. The XG was 0.93. That being said, Palace are a good defense. They've only concede goals, but in terms of big chances, I think it's only 1 or 2 in the last 4 game weeks. And they had pretty much decided to shut up shop. They offered nothing going forward. They parked everyone behind. And it could have been like we discussed earlier, it was always just inches away from Ronaldo. Ronaldo had a few shots. It just missed his head. So it could have been more. So it's a punt. Don't get me wrong. It's a punt.
But do you think it's a stupid punt, Zoph? That's the question.
I don't think it's a stupid punt anytime to captain Cristiano Ronaldo.
Cool. That's all I wanted to know. Because I know it takes a lot for you to move there. I just wanted to ask you if it's stupid. Baker, where are you? Are you considering zagging?
I'm considering zagging, yeah. I am considering zagging. I guess it's just we need at least a brace, really, when you think about it. So do we still back that Salah doesn't score? And it's like, probably do expect him to score, at least return, that touch for... it's ridiculous for the Origi goal. Like, to be in that control of your game, that that I'm going to push the ball this far in front of me, and just the way he did it was such a magnificent moment that you just look at Salah's record and go, I don't expect him to blank, so therefore I need a brace. And you don't quite get as many points because of the 4 points versus 5 points for the goal. Potentially Liverpool could keep a clean sheet against Villa, and suddenly he's quite up against it, and you feel like, well, what am I going to march? What kind of march am I going to get here? So do I think that I'm going to get 13-point haul for Ronaldo versus an 8-point for Salah? Maybe. So I might gain 10 points. That's kind of probably what you're looking at, isn't it? So it's not like one where we're probably thinking this could be an 18-pointer versus a 2-pointer. We're probably thinking about those ones. And then if it's the other way, it's a problem.
It's a problem, but it's not a big problem because you get Salah's. I said that, then I captain Kai Havertz.
I was going to bring that up, so I don't think that's a logical argument.
But Kai Havertz or Ronaldo is a very different game.
That's
exactly
fair. That's fair.
That's exactly
it was Norwich though.
It was Norwich.
yeah.
They conceded 7, so got that right.
They did, yeah. But you do feel if they concede 7 against United, we won't be seeing.
Ronaldo will definitely have something if they concede 7.
Imagine how angry he'd be if he didn't get anything. Could you imagine it? Like the halftime team talk could just be him, wouldn't it? Be like, this is not happening. Just give me the ball.
and even from an EO perspective, right, Zoph, while we're having this discussion, you mentioned that people are going to bring in Ronaldo pretty soon. I expect his ownership to skyrocket very, very soon. There might be 1 or 2 or maybe 3 game weeks where you might be able to take real advantage of him as an asset, and it's Norwich. So that's the thinking in my head as well, because that's all. I don't know what else to say.
Fair enough. I'm glad we've actually had a captaincy discussion, but feels like ages now.
Yep. Right. Move on to our teams now. We've gone for an hour and a half.
Yes. Want to get done before the Chelsea game.
Yeah.
Right. With Ronaldo up top with Tony. I think this is you, Pranal?
Yes. Let me just quickly...
I can read it out for you if you don't have it open.
Yeah.
Please do. It's Ramsdale in goal, Trent, Cancelo, James, Alonso in defense, Salah captain currently, Foden, Jota, Gallagher, Bumo midfield, Ronaldo vice, Foster, Livramento, Tony and Locadia on the bench. Right.
So I've already made the move from Kane to Ronaldo. I do have one extra free transfer as well. And earlier I was thinking of moving Tony to King, and then maybe take a hit for Gallagher to Gundogan, because I was really feeling Gundogan, and like you know, I wanted to get a head start on the City fixtures and get that double City midfield in place. But I don't know what I'm going to do now. I'm definitely going to wait till Pep's press conference on Friday, because I want to know what's happening with Foden and how serious his injury is. But I then realized I don't really have a route to Antonio if I start committing on a 5.7 million Josh King at the moment, and it's a little far stretch, and it's very easy this week if I decide to do Alonso to Dalot, and I have enough cash in the bank then to do Tony to Antonio. What do you guys think about that?
I don't think you should do it this week. Probably next week or the week after. That's when you're looking to do it. Look to target Antonio in game week 18, I would say.
Yeah, game week 18, but Burnley is a good fixture and Norwich home is a good fixture as well for Dalot. So that is playing on my Norwich away. Sorry, not Norwich home, but those two are good fixtures as well. But not like they're bad fixtures for the two players I'm bringing.
The next 2 weeks are the ones you got in Alonso for the potential 15-pointer against 2-40. So this is not when you'd want to lose on Alonso.
So I just hold and don't bring King in this week, because then my bench is real thin and not so good. That's also an issue.
That is true. You have only because Livramento also now isn't a great option with Caballero in goal. So we have to sort of reposition Livramento's potential also a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing, because the easy move is to do Tony to King and then think about how to get Antonio later. But
or you do Tony to King, or you ignore Antonio and go Boomo to Bowen.
Yeah, but we had the conversation we did in the past hour and a half. Zoph, you told me Antonio is the one.
I definitely do think so. But that's the only route I can see. I don't like losing Alonso for the next 2 weeks.
That's where I brought in the Ramsey conversation, because the other compromise was Boomo to Ramsey to allow me to fund Tony to Antonio.
But then you would have Ramsey, Locadia, and Livramento.
Yep.
Don't like that.
Yeah, that's where I am. There's no point speculating until we know what Foden's issue is looking like at the moment. So we'll just wait. But these are the options that I'm considering at the moment.
You have one free transfer left, right?
I have one free transfer left.
I'd probably roll it.
Cool. Baker, what would you do?
I think if Foden's okay, I think I'd roll it and work it out after, because I think there is a bit of a fixture. But it's a structure change there, isn't there? Where you're trying to work through of where we're going to be. It's quite lean up top, isn't it? And it's. I think if you could get an Antonio suddenly, you'd be in a very strong space. Albeit King's a good option, but like you say.
Yeah. What King does is bringing King does and ignoring Antonio does is it allows a very easy Boomer to Bowen upgrade as well. So that just keeps things quite simple. But I'll look at things after City's press conference. There's no point waiting time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Move on to Baker's team. Do you remember your team, Baker? Or do you want me to read it out for you?
I do. Well, I think it's the same back line as Pranel. So I've got Ramsdale, Trent, James, Cancelo, Alonso. Same. Midfield is Salah, Jota, and Bernardo. So yeah, I should probably caveat here. I didn't start with this team. I've already taken a -4. So I've gone quite aggressive quite early here. Bringing in Bernardo for Rafinha. And then up top, I've taken out Tony and Kane, and I've brought in Ronaldo and King. The armband's there because I thought I'd see what it looks like on Ronaldo at the moment. And then I've got Antonio to go with it. And the bench is bad. But yeah, I like the team. And the fact I like the team almost makes me feel like maybe I could take that punt with Ronaldo, because I feel like I've got quite a lot of bases covered as well. So where it is at the moment.
Team does look really good. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, an Alonso downgrade funds another position on your bench as well. So I wouldn't be too worried about.
That's the plan. Is Alonso fund it down to maybe a Dalot, and then Townsend goes to finally get rid of Townsend after all these weeks.
I wouldn't be surprised game week 38 if Townsend is still lingering somehow.
Every week Zoph says, how's this still happening? But it's still there.
Almost got you an assist yesterday for that offside goal. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I am thin on the bench, especially if the Brighton game is cancelled and Norman doesn't make it back. Could end up with not all
I
the
think
players,
you're
but
fine
they all
this
look.
week. You're fine this week
Yeah.
because like a lot of these guys have been rested midweek, right? So
Yeah.
it's the week after that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a bit trickier. Cool. Should we move on to
Cool,
mine?
Zoph. Yep.
So it's the same backline as you guys. I won't bother reading it out again. Salah, Jota, Bumo, Gallagher, Antonio, Ronaldo, Foster, King on the bench, Livramento, and Brownhill. So my two moves were Ronaldo and Tony out. Sorry, Kane and Tony out for Ronaldo and King. So now I have exactly 1.5 in the bank here, which funds Gallagher to Bernardo for a -4. Then that's really tempting me. A and B, I cannot for the life of me to decide who to bench from Bumo, Gallagher, and King. What do you guys think?
I think the conversation we had earlier in the day was fine. If MacArthur is fit, then I'd bench Bumo. And if MacArthur isn't fit, I'd bench Gallagher.
So you like King over Bumo, basically, from that I could surmise from that conversation.
Fourth on the XG table since game week 8 Zoph. You have to take that into consideration. And penalties.
That's true. And I thought the last game was a bit weird, especially in the first half without Tony. They were completely toothless. And it was, I think, only after Calvin Phillips went off is when they started creating some chances.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my head I like Watford's attack more than Brentford's attack at the moment.
Interesting.
What about the fact of we've had a few of these mentioned earlier where there's both teams scoring in Watford games heavy both ways is it could end up with a shootout there.
That's what I think. That's what I think because both the teams are towards the bottom of the XGC than the bottom 4. So I'd expect goals in this game. So and I actually think I'm leaning towards benching Gallagher, like you said, because I think Everton, they got the win recently. They sort of might get an improvement. You saw Dean being benched. You spot Godfrey like that. They might get a little bit of a revival.
And they do have Allen and Doucouré in that pivot, which is pretty solid.
So in terms of the fixture difficulty, I would argue Gallagher has probably the most difficult fixture of the three.
I think the game that is most likely to be the shootout there is the Watford Brentford one, and I like it. And you just think with Palace is, especially with him deeper, it's not like he goes deep and the team has no opportunity to score. They've still got lots of players in front of him. So therefore if they score 2 goals, he's not necessarily involved in them, and so even if they won 2-0, it doesn't necessarily mean anything more than 3 points for Gallagher. So for me, I would do Bumo and King and play them both. And I just feel like the worst case scenario is that you're going to get a return between them.
So I pulled up some odds here from Draft Hound. It's a great site. You guys should check it out. They do some odds for these guys. We did a comparison between King, Gallagher, and Bumo. So in terms of anytime goal scorer, King is 29, Gallagher 23. Bumo is the highest of the lot, 34. And a particular number I liked here is win percentage, right? It shows how likely a team is to win. And I assume dominate the game. To that sense, you have Brentford at 47% to win that match. Where you have Palace at 43%. So that makes me think after the 3 that Bumo is the one I should definitely play. Which is contrary to what you said, LR, right?
Yep.
It's interesting. It's not an easy decision. What do you think about the Gallagher to Bernardo for a hit?
I don't mind you waiting a week because
It's exact cash.
I don't mind.
That's a problem, right? If the Sun news gets confirmed, I think there's going to be a mass wagon towards Bernardo from Sun.
There will be.
But I'm not sure he's the best City midfielder. He's a good City midfielder option to have, and Bumo and King are good options to play this week. I wouldn't mind waiting a week and seeing if there's some more information.
If I can get through without the price rise, I think I'll probably wait. But if it looks like Bernardo is going to rise on Friday, I don't want to do the move on Friday night after deadline with the game week just kicking off. That makes me feel uncomfortable. So I might do it for a hit then.
Yeah. Cool. I think it's also the fact if you're not just taking a hit, because if you've already moved Gallagher to your bench, for example, like at the moment, because Gallagher's in the team, it's probably an easier decision. But you just do that move of shifting Gallagher onto first at the bench, then not only are you bringing him in for a hit, but then you're taking out one of those players, and then you've got that decision again, and it's like it's a pain. I would see how you feel if you made that move of Gallagher to King on that screen, and then say, do I like this more?
Right now, I'm leaning towards waiting rather than moving.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. do a quick Q&A or should we wrap up? We've already gone to an hour 40.
I think let's wrap up.
Yeah, I want to get to
the
the Chelsea game as well.
I think there's just, while we're on the topic of Q&A, I think there's one question that everybody just needs to answer. I think we need to answer that for Sanchez owners. If the Spurs game is called off, do you hold Sanchez or do you move on to a different keeper?
Who would you move on to? I think in the premiums, I like De Gea with the run. If you can stretch to De Gea, it's a great option. But in terms of the cheaper guys, there's nobody else that was really standing out.
Yeah, Ramsdale, that's it.
I think, same thing. If you can move up, then I think it's worthwhile. But if you've got like 0 in the bank and then suddenly it's like you can't, maybe hold on. But Dunk is a big injury for Brighton.
Is it long term?
We don't know yet.
At least this year. It's at least this year.
Wow.
I did not know that.
They're expecting 3 months is the expectation, but they've already said on their thing he won't play again this year. But that's big. So Duffy as well, in the cheap ones, Duffy does come back into play again.
Yeah, but that's like getting Matip when Van Dijk is injured.
Yeah.
It's not really
well, and that's the point though, is that Dunk is such a big loss to them that you suddenly think, do I want Sanchez? Like, he's not playing well. He had a bad couple of games. They don't play this weekend, and when they do play, they've lost their captain. I think if you can move him on for a hit to somebody that you like, I think it's worthwhile. But I think if you can't move him on to someone you can't, don't.
We're on game week 16 at the moment, and I'm just looking at the official FPL page. And until game week 28, United just has one red game, and the red game is West Ham at home. It's like, that's a long time. And I think it's around 27, 28 time when we'll start thinking about the wildcard and double game weeks and all of that. I'd feel quite confident moving on to De Gea.
Yep. If you can get to De Gea, that's definitely where I'd go. But I wouldn't use a hit for Ramsdale. If you have to hit, if you have Sanchez getting the 0 this week, I'd still take the 0 on the chin.
Fair enough. But if it's a move you're going to make anyway, because this Dunk information is new and I think it's quite significant.
That's true. Southampton home isn't the worst entry point for Ramsdale.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, we have a couple of super chats. We'll quickly get through them, guys. No more super chats. We just need to go watch the Chelsea game so that we can do this right for you next time. From Pulkit Chabra, he keep Kane for one more week if the game is not got called off, as he has Tony to King, Raf to Jota. Just move to Jota if you don't have. Raf to Jota should be priority always. Jota should be priority always, no matter what.
Yep.
100%.
Agree?
100%.
Absolutely. But I don't mind moving Kane to Ronaldo for a hit.
I don't either. I don't think the game is going to go on. I don't see it happening, to be very frank. That's my opinion, not a fact. Next super chat from Albas. Foden to Bowen or Bilva for -4, or Tony to King for -4, or Tony plus Boomer to King plus Bowen for -8. If Foden doesn't play Brown, not the 8 for sure. Do the Tony to King. I like, but he already has Dennis.
Fun.
I wouldn't be comfortable selling Foden for Bilva.
It depends on the injury, right? Depends on the news. If he's out, then maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that serious because it was a precautionary substitution. So
that's what they all say.
Yeah, that's all they all say. Yeah. So we wait till there. But if he's out for maybe a week or something, and you're going to miss 3 game weeks, then move him on to Bowen or Bilva over Bowen if you're picking between the two.
Yeah, agree.
Cool. That's it. Thank you again, Baker, for being with us today. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and I'll catch you on the chat tomorrow, both of you. Good luck this week, guys, and we'll see you next week. Any last words, boys?
Good luck. See you guys boys. Next week. And we'll try to do a pod. I think we have again short turnarounds. Again next game week. We'll try to get a pod in before the next game week's deadline, game week 17 deadline.
It has to be Mondays off because Tuesday morning I'm off to the hills. So
Monday morning blues.
Monday night or a Monday.
Let's hope you have a good game week.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Zoph's game's already started.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.